Today, we're digging into Crime Stoppers. It's a name we all know, right? The whole anonymous tip, cash for information thing. But beneath that well-known surface, there's a really complex story of incredible success and some pretty sharp controversy. So what's the real story? Is it a force for justice or a deeply flawed system?
I mean, just think about that for a second. That simple, powerful question is the entire foundation of Crime Stoppers. It's built on this core promise that you can do the right thing, stay completely safe, totally anonymous, and hey, maybe even get paid for it. It's an idea that honestly changed the game for modern policing. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start at the very beginning with its tragic origins. Then we'll get into the numbers and look at its undeniable impact. After that, we'll dive into the controversies that have really put this organization under a microscope. And finally, we'll try to balance the scales on what is a really powerful but also very complicated system.
Our story doesn't begin in some corporate boardroom. It starts at a crime scene. We have to go back to Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1976, where one senseless act of violence would unexpectedly kickstart a global movement.
A young man named Michael Carmen was shot and killed while he was working his shift at a gas station. For 2 long weeks, the case was completely cold. Police had nothing. So, in a pretty desperate move, a detective named Greg McAleese worked with a local TV station to air a reenactment, and he offered a $1,000 reward for information. And believe it or not, it worked. Within 72 hours, a witness called in with the one tip they needed to crack the case wide open.
But what Detective McAleese learned from that tipster was the real game changer. The person who called in admitted they hadn't come forward earlier because, simply put, they were scared and didn't want to get involved. And that was the light bulb moment. McAleese realized the biggest thing stopping crimes from being solved weren't a lack of information. It was the public's fear and their apathy.
And just like that, the model was born. It's a brilliant 3-part strategy. You guarantee anonymity to combat the fear, you use the media to fight the apathy, and you offer cash rewards as a powerful incentive to get people to act. This exact formula became the blueprint for Crime Stoppers chapters all over the country, and eventually, the entire world.
So how did this one idea from a detective in Albuquerque turn into a national powerhouse? Well, the results, when you measure them over decades, are frankly staggering.
Let's just start with the most direct impact. Over 600,000 arrests. Let that number sink in for a second. That's more than 500,000 cases where an anonymous tip from a regular citizen was the missing piece of the puzzle. It represents countless hours of police work saved and a direct line from someone's observation to a suspect in custody, for everything from burglary to homicide.
And the impact goes way beyond just arrests. The program has led to the recovery and seizure of over $4 billion worth of property and narcotics. $4 billion. That number represents 2 huge things. 1, a massive financial hit to criminal enterprises, and 2, for thousands of victims, the priceless feeling of getting their stolen belongings back. And if you want to understand the scale of the incentive, just consider this. Over $100 million has been paid out to people who made the choice to call. This just proves that for decades, the system of rewarding information has been operating on a massive scale, successfully convincing people to overcome their hesitation and share what they know. So on the surface, it seems like a perfect system. A tip comes in, an arrest is made, a reward gets paid out. Easy, right? Well, it's not always that simple. That promise of a payout comes with some very important and pretty controversial fine print. And this brings us to the other side of the Crime Stoppers story. For all its incredible successes, the organization has faced repeated criticism over its reward system, with a lot of tipsters claiming that the promise of cash was just flat out broken. Okay, so here are the core issues. One of the most criticized rules is that you must call Crime Stoppers first. Think about that. If you see a crime happening right now, and you call 911, and then you call Crime Stoppers, you can be disqualified from the reward. This technicality has been used to deny payments. On top of that, some local chapters have been accused of advertising these huge rewards that they don't actually have the funds to pay out. And this isn't just a minor complaint here and there, it's made major headlines. Investigative reports, like this one from Fox 13 in Tampa Bay, have highlighted cases where people who were sure their information led directly to an arrest were just left empty-handed. They ended up feeling betrayed by the very system they were trying to help.
So how do we reconcile these 2 very different realities? You've got the incredible crime-fighting statistics on one hand, and these serious allegations of broken promises on the other. It really all comes down to a very difficult balancing act.
Let's just break it down side by side. The promise of anonymity is the program's greatest strength. It gets people to talk. But the problem is that these super rigid rules can disqualify well-meaning people. The promise of cash is obviously a powerful motivator, but the reality of funding issues means that motivators sometimes fails to deliver. And that funding model is really a double-edged sword. On one hand, being a nonprofit keeps Crime Stoppers independent. They're a neutral party between the public and the police, which is good. But on the other hand, it means they live and die by donations. This financial shakiness is the root cause of many of the payout controversies. It creates this tension between the rewards they advertise and the reality of their bank account, which can really erode public trust.
So here's the bottom line. Crime Stoppers has proven itself to be a uniquely effective tool for law enforcement. It empowers ordinary citizens to help solve crimes from the safety of anonymity. But, and this is a really big but, it's a tool that comes with a lot of conditions and procedural hoops that every potential tipster should really be aware of.
And that leaves us with a final question to think about. I mean, the rules are in place to make sure this system works as it's supposed to. But if those same rules prevent a deserving person from getting a reward, or even worse, discourage someone from calling 911 first in an actual emergency, where should that line be drawn? It's a debate that sits at the very heart of this powerful and very, very controversial organization.